Okay. Hello and welcome to the Being Dad podcast. My name is Pete. I've been married to Emma for 11 years. We have a little boy named Frank who is 6 years old.
I'm Ian. I've been married to my wife Catherine for 5.5 years now. I've got two children. I've got a little girl called Kira who's 3. And I've got a little girl, Rosie, who is 1.
Tonight we have our good friend and fellow mentor, Rob Dillon. Rob?
I'm Rob. I'm 42 and I've got a son who's 15 at the moment. And I split with his mum when he was 7. And we get on. I'm lucky I still get on great with him and see him every day.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Rob. So then, Rob, when you became a father, how did that impact you and your relationship with your wife and your son?
When he was born, it just turned my life on its head. I'll be honest with you. It completely did. My priorities changed. Both our lives changed for the better. Must admit, It was the best thing that's ever happened to me, and it still is to this day, without its challenges, though.
So you said it worked at the beginning. It was a good thing. It was positive. So what kind of things were good about it?
Well, having Liam.
Yeah. Or being a dad when you became a dad.
It's a privilege being a dad. I found it as a privilege. I was put in a great position, and it comes with a lot of responsibility. Responsibility that I wasn't ready for. I wasn't prepared for. Not ready. I wasn't prepared for it.
How old were you when you had Liam?
I was 26 when I had Liam.
26. And so what kind of, what was your life like, in a nutshell before you had Liam, and and then kind of what kind of immediately changed?
I was playing football a lot. I was playing football weekends. My life was quite simple, really. I was having a nice life. I must admit. It was easy going. Weekends was sorted.
It sounds like you didn't have a care.
No, not in a lot of respects. No, me and his mum was going on great most of the time, as we all do, and yeah, it was good. And then along did Liam come and just added a different dimension to it, I'd say.
Yeah. How did you and your missus meet? Liam's mum?
In school. We met in school.
Wow.
So we've known each other since we was about 13, 14. So and then
Wow.
we had our ups and downs, don't get me wrong, as at that age you do, don't you, as you're growing up, before Liam come along, like. But
I've not yet found an age where you don't have your ups and downs. Don't worry. I've only gone through 30 of them though.
Rob, how have your relationships evolved? Because you mentioned that you've separated from Liam's mum. How's your relationship evolved now that you've separated?
it's completely different. It changed on its head. When we split, I left our family home, so it was like starting again for me. And that was probably the scariest thing I've ever done. Really was a complete lifestyle change. It was like starting your life all over again. The life that you'd known for. I was with Liam's mum for 18 years, and then it was just bang, you're on your own. You've got all this thinking time. And it threw me completely out of whack.
So now you're kind of through the other end as well. What are the signs that you maybe coulda, shoulda, woulda picked on sooner that you'd kind of say to someone now if they were worried about their own relationship?
I'd say make time for each other. That's one thing we didn't do. As soon as Liam was born, our priorities just turned to him. and we kind of forgot about each other. We didn't really do much, anything really together. It was our lives revolved around him completely, and then that relationship become second to him. It was, you come home from work, if I hadn't seen him all day, so straight away it was right.
Baby.
Here we go. Yeah, baby time, and so his mum at the time, obviously they're on maternity and stuff, and so it's right. You have a rest, I'll sort him, and before you know it, you're in bed, and that's your day done. And it was quite. After a while, you think, I forgot what I did before he come along.
Yeah. By separating, did you improve your relationship?
With Liam, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
And his mum,
Yeah.
completely. It was don't get me wrong, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and it still is to this day, because it was you're leaving what you know, and you're leaving your son, basically. Because let's be honest, as dads, it's very rare that a dad takes his kids with him or takes his child with him. They normally stay with mum, don't they?
Yes.
So straight away then, is the dad being judged? Because the dad's the one normally who leaves the home, isn't he? More often than not, again, if we're talking about. So straight away you're then thinking, well, I've left, so you're starting again. You're basically starting again. And so it's tough for dads to do that, and I think. And sometimes dads don't have a choice. If they split up and it's a bad split, it's horrible, and you don't know what goes on, do you? So for me personally, it was at first it was awkward being polite about it. It's a game. It was like a game at first between me and her.
I think there's a lot of people who end up going through that game, and a lot of it people go on for years. And
I think in my circumstance, because we knew it was coming, and we kind of like, it wasn't like a bad split, if you like. It wasn't that. There was no malice in it. So in that respect, we said, look, we're going to live apart, but we're going to carry on seeing each other, seeing him, seeing each other. So we've got to make it work. And we made an effort not to fall out, even though we did sometimes at the beginning.
Would you say between the two of you, there was always a level of respect that this is the father, the mother of my child, and I should respect this person accordingly?
Yeah, and it still is. It still is to this day, because she wants me to be the best dad for him, and I want her to be the best mum for him. So if I make her life awkward, it's only going to influence on him, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's never going to. The child's always going to suffer if the parents are arguing. That's the way I'd see it anyway. But sometimes you don't have a choice, do you? It does get messy.
Yeah.
Was that the main challenge, do you think? The I guess when it started, when you separated, rethinking your relationship with both your son and your ex, because you've gone from living in each other's space to then you're not, and then you're kind of helicoptering in as a dad, and your role has changed in a way. You're kind of a visiting father rather than a constant father. I mean, to me, that would be a big challenge. Did you find that difficult?
Yeah, it is, because you're trying to fit all that time that you've missed into an hour at night or an half an hour at night, and you feel guilty.
Yeah.
I felt a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
I thought I should be there for him, and I want to be there for him. And no, so you make that extra effort, but sometimes you don't feel it's enough, and you come away. I just come away from speaking to him thinking, what can I do? It was hard at the first, and I was fortunate where some dads don't. They get stopped from seeing their kids, don't they?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of one of the reasons that Parents in Mind was there for, not to kind of suggest avenues for this, but more to kind of be an ear to help. And I think we're always going to be able to say, we'll listen to someone. What do you need? If someone does say, I want access to my kids, we can kind of lead them from one step to the other, and give them that kind of avenue to help. Because I think there's a lot of dads out there that don't know where to turn to for any kind of help.
Very true. Very true. And I feel like in this instance, Rob, you're kind of like a really great example of how to manage a situation that is traumatic for everybody involved. And that's what I'm hoping, is that if someone watches this or listens to this, they'll think, okay, there are lots of different ways of managing this, and it doesn't necessarily have to be who's going to win. It's actually, well, what's the best scenario for our children in this?
I think it takes. You've got to kind of. It's the time it takes for dads, I find, is the problem when they do split with mum. And if it does end a bit messy, or they fall out and right, out you go, or you're never seeing this kid again. And, and then it's the time from that point until something, like Ian just said, then when something gets put in place, when that dad can start seeing that their kid or their child on a regular basis, because I think that is the time where you can go either way. You've got all that thinking time, your head's all over the place, you're thinking all kinds, because you're not there, you're not in their house, so you don't know what's going on. And I think that's the main thing. You don't know what is going on when you're not there. And as for the dad, I think that is crucial time. If we can narrow that gap in between when he can't see that kid to when he can, I think a lot can be done.
Yeah.
So what with like the building, what were the building blocks that you kind of had to go out and seek so you could start again and ultimately get to, where you are now? What were like the steps that you kind of had to go through to kind of get to that point?
Well, I had to find somewhere else to live. So when we knew we were splitting up, started looking for somewhere else to live, close by but not too close. Obviously, I don't want to be bumping into his mum, all the time, but I want to be close enough to him, close enough to work. So I did that. Got it, stayed within 5-10 minutes, and then it was a case of getting his own room in the flat, and stuff like that, and saying, and I bought straight to, as soon as I could. I got him there. I got him, making it feel like it was his home as well, and you've got to, this is your space as much as it is mine. This is our space, and that's how we started off. And it took him a while for it settled, because I was seeing him every weekend, and I called round on my way home from work, which I was quite fortunate. Where some dads don't get that when you're not seeing him, you're seeing him 2 days a week. But it was just keeping in touch with him, keeping him close by, seeing him away from his mum, so it's not in that confined space. So come on, pal, we'll go for a walk, or we'll go on our bikes, things like that.
Yeah.
Keeping that keeping speaking to him, letting him know that you're there.
Yeah. Have you ever talked about the separation with Liam? Do you talk about it now? Is that something that's ever come up?
The reason I split from his mum is I picked him up from school, and me and his mum had spoke about it, and I took him to the park. He was taking him to the park when I used to get him after school some nights, after school club and that, because me and his mum worked. And I went to the park and had a conversation. I said, look, how would you feel? And if I asked him, look, Dad's on about moving out. How would you feel about it? He was 7, and I said, if you don't want me to go, I won't go. And if he'd have said to me at that day, Dad, I don't want you to go, I would not have gone. I'd have stayed, and I don't know what would have happened. Wow. I'd have tried to make it work, but if he'd have said, I want you to stay, I'd have stayed.
So what did he say then? What was his his actual response to that?
His answer was, does that mean I get to everything, Dad?
Okay.
And I said, I suppose so, yeah.
Probably.
And that was his answer. And I thought, you cheeky little.
Yeah, okay. Remind me not to never to ask my daughter that question then.
But that kind of, it still didn't, because I thought, yeah, he was still at that age where because it was amicable, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't as hard as I've seen a lot of people go through something similar.
I think what his answer was, if you translate it from 7-year-old to English, is, "Am I still going to be loved?"
I mean, you came to Parents in Mind to be a mentor to dads who have struggled with their mental health or are struggling now with their mental health. Do you mind telling us, I mean, what kind of difficulties you had? And I'm assuming it's around this time that when you separated.
Yeah, do you know what it is? It's when you get thinking time. It's when you've got time to yourself, and all of a sudden you're on your own. You come home from work, your child's not there, so you're thinking, I'm on my own. What do I do? What do I do with my life now? Where do I go from here? You know, like we said earlier on, as soon as your child Liam was born, my life changed. I kind of like lost contact with all my friends, things like that. My life, I stopped playing football, so that went out the window. And I looked round and I thought, my mates are all off doing stuff. I've spent the last 7, 8 years of my life living in this bubble, and it's all of a sudden it's like, what do I do? And I started struggling because I was overthinking all the time, and I don't know. I threw myself into my work. I just started working as much as I could, to keep my mind off it. I didn't want to go home some nights because I thought, I'm going to go home and be on my own. And I think that's where dads, because it's the not knowing that does you. I found it's the not knowing what's going on with my son, And at first it was like paranoia. Is she feeding him? Who's she got round the house? Who's seeing him when I'm not? Things like that.
Yeah.
And it can eat away at you. It drives you mad.
How did you navigate through that? I mean, what things, you said you worked a lot, what other things helped you at that time?
I use exercise. My thing is exercise. If I'm feeling a bit low, I'd bike it to work, I'd come home, I'd get home from work, get changed and go out for a run. And then I'd come home and I'd try and keep myself tired. Does that make sense? Because that kept my mind occupied and stuff like that. I think, right, if I'm always doing something, I can't think about something if I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
So what's your mind thinking of when you're cycling, or, well, maybe not when you're cycling, more when you're running, really? What's your mind thinking of? Is it literally just what's in front of you there, or?
Yeah, you just switch off.
Yeah.
You feel like that freedom. You run along and your legs might be killing you, you can't breathe. And just concentrating on your next step, and I think that kind of like helped me turn a corner.
Yeah.
In that respect, because I got back to, it doesn't want to come across selfish, but I got back to being me. I found me again. I started listening to the music I like listening to. Yeah. I put where I was living in my taste, and things like that. You find new interests as well, and that's one thing I'd say to a dad who's struggling is, do something that you enjoy. Go and find something that you enjoy and something that you might want to always to do. Go and do it.
Wonderful.
Keep your mind active. Don't forget your kids by any means, but look after yourself first.
We've probably said it a few times during these podcasts, is that you can't pour from an empty cup. And if you're going to be any use as a husband or a partner or as a dad, if you're empty and you're knackered and you've forgotten yourself, you're probably not going to be the best version of yourself for your kids or for your wife or your partner. If you're not looking after yourself, you're not going to be looking after your family very well either. So it's not selfish. And what you described there, Rob, was a beautiful analogy for what happens when you have to try and rebuild your life, is you do literally concentrate on step by step. So as you're running each step, you're just thinking, if I just make the next step, and just make the next lamppost, if I can just make the next line of trees or something, then I'll be all right. And I feel like that's a really nice analogy for how you get through these tough times, is you just focus on what's in front of you and the next step and the next step. I've just got one more question for me. You can fire away, Ian, as well. What's the most important thing for any parents who find themselves in a similar situation to you, Rob?
I'd say if you're starting feeling rough, or you're not feeling right, or you're overthinking, the sooner you ask for help, speak to someone, the better. Don't sit and let it carry on and carry on. If you're not feeling right, speak to someone, speak to a mate. Just speak to someone, I think, whatever you do, and as soon as you start feeling vulnerable, ask someone for help or get in contact with someone, because I know it's hard for fellas. They put it off, and it can lead to anything, and we don't want that to happen, really don't. So if you get the opportunity, as soon as you get a chance, go on your phone, anything, and just speak to someone. Do not let it fester.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for being our guest tonight on Being Dad
Thanks
podcast.
for having me.
I'm gonna share this one. I think with my brother. I think he needs to listen to this one.
Definitely. Just to wrap it up, we have a catalogue of resources and signposts that are going to be linked in this podcast. And as Rob and Ian have said, just reach out. If you're feeling isolated, if you're feeling like you're struggling, don't be afraid to reach out, because when conversations start, you soon realise that you're not alone. And there's lots of us who've gone through these similar experiences. Thanks for watching and listening to Being Dad. If you or anyone wants to access any of our services, go to www.parentsinmind.nct.org.uk, and we'll hopefully see you and speak to you soon. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.